It is time for my favorite video that I always film each month, talking about the manga that I read, and there were plenty of great manga that I read last month. Hello friends, happy Friday. So very excited that you're here. It is my monthly reading wrap-up video where like I said, gush about the manga that I read last month. It was a really great month of reading. I only read 25 volumes of manga and only physical, which was actually sort of surprising. I did read like a digital book, and that was, I think, book 5 in Twisted Wonderland. It's the book that centers around Apple, Rook, and Vil. Very much enjoyed that chapter in the series, or that book in the series. It was so good. Like, that's part of the game. So I don't know if that technically counts as a book, but I'm like, that was one of my goals last month, and I read it and very excited and played it. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, yes, I read 25 manga, no digital, and I feel like I'm stuck on that, to be honest. I'm like, usually I read like one digital a month, but I don't have any. I did buy a digital manga, and that I was talking to my friend Kawaii Heart. I got volume 2 of Love That's an Understatement after we were gushing about it, and I didn't read it. I don't know what happened, but I do feel, because I had a really big month of reading back in, what was it, June? I definitely prepared for me to have a much smaller month of reading, because I definitely was feeling some burnout at the end of June. For like a week and a half at least, I really couldn't read anything. Like, even going on social media was just like a no for my brain. So I took it easy this past month, started playing Zelda again, and I just feel like it was a really good month. My kids go back to school later this month, so I also wanted to be more intentional with my time, and I was like, there's always time to read manga, but there's not always time where my kids are young before they go back to school. I am not ready. Let's go ahead and talk about what I read this month. So the first 2 volumes that I read were actually a reread. I featured this in, I think it was Manga That I Would Love to Read for the First Time Again. It was in a Top 5 Wednesday video, and that was Daily Report About My Witch Senpai. I just randomly reread this for no apparent reason. I guess it wasn't no reason, because I sort of unintentionally reread it because of that video, and it was so good. Love it just as much as the first time that I read it. Definitely wish I could reread it again for like the very first time and have no memory of the 5-6 times that I've already read this series. I cannot wait for volume 3. No release date has been announced yet, but I am eagerly anticipating it because I just really love and enjoy this series so very much. The next one that I read was Gat Papa number 2, and it continues to be one of the sweetest manga I have ever read. In fact, right before this video, when I picked it up off the shelf, I was like, you know what? We're just gonna reread it. And that is what I did, because I love and adore this series so very much. I was just looking when we get volume 3 and even volume 4, and the releases are slow, and I am not ready for those slow releases. I'm like, no, 7 Seas, please release this faster. Oh my goodness, there's just so many sweet things about it. I am invested in that coworker romance. It's not really a romance. I think it's just called the coworker, the coworker chapter, but I want that guy's love story to unfold, and I love seeing more into how our 2 main leads, I guess, how they met and fell in love. It was very sweet. I love this manga so much. I know technically I don't ever put it in like my favorites for the month when I share like what was my favorite read of that month, like using the graphic that I did this past Wednesday in my Top 5 Wednesday video, but this is definitely one of my favorite series. I feel like there's just no way to choose what a favorite is, but just know that Gat Papa is always up in there. Like always. Like, I just love it so very much. Next up was Yusatoki Rhetoric Volume 3. I feel like I talked about this manga. Oh, nostalgia! I talked about in my nostalgia video of how it had, this volume didn't have the Scooby-Doo vibes, but volume 2 did. This was really intense, but also really good. A friend of mine on Twitter got volume 4 like incredibly early. Like, she already has volume 4 in her hands. She did say it was much more low-key with the intensity of the mystery and even some other elements that were pretty intense in this one. So I was really excited to hear that, even though I really love this volume, though I won't read volume 4 at nighttime, because this has like things with dolls. It's more eerie than creepy, but it still like had me really on edge at the same time. But I really enjoyed the mystery and seeing how everything came together. I really love our main girl so much. She is just so inspiring, how she is always learning different things. Like, I feel like there's always a great message about lies. This volume focused more on why do people tell lies lies, and what should we do when we find out when it seems like the lie's not necessarily for a bad thing, but they're trying to protect something. I know that sounds really vague. I mean, we say lying's never good, and it's not, but I feel like the way that this series has tackled lies has been very interesting, and this volume definitely didn't disappoint when it came to that. A very enjoyable, little bit creepy of a volume that I just continue to really enjoy, even if this one was definitely a little bit more intense. I did have a library read this month, and that is Juju. I actually read volumes 1 and 2. I returned volume 2 to my library. I read this for the ABCs of shoujo manga that I film over on Beneath the Tangles. The letter J just came out yesterday, like the video did. This was an interesting series. I decided just to stay at volume 1 because volume 2, I don't know how to finish that sentence. It was very hot mess to me, and I felt like the plot was everywhere, which isn't something that I typically really think of when I'm reading. Like, yeah, Papa doesn't have any plot, so obviously I feel like a plot isn't a must for me, but I don't know. There was too many things that just didn't add up, and I'm like, you're adding in these weird fantasy creatures that I don't understand the connection when the series is supposed to center around our main girl is a demon hunter, and I'm like, well, the creatures that she's hunting aren't demons, they're, like I said, fantasy. So I felt very lost in that sense, and so I just felt like the story went a different direction. I definitely shared more of a review in that video, so I don't want to go too much into this. I really love the art though. I wasn't a huge fan of the story. I mean, I liked the story, but nudity was like the element, like they used it for humor purposes, and I just wasn't a fan of that. I'm like, okay, like once or twice is fine, but I'm like, to continue the theme through the entire volume was just a little bit too much for me personally. There's no graphic nudity or anything, and you don't actually see anything, but the art style is really good. It is sort of a unique story. I haven't read anything like this, so if you're curious about more of my thoughts on it, definitely check out that video. If anybody else has read this series, I definitely would be interested in hearing your thoughts, because I was gonna keep reading because I checked out all 5 volumes, but then I heard things about the ending and I was like, you know what, I'm like, I liked volume 1 well enough where I gave it 3 stars, that it was a memorable read, but I don't want to go any further and destroy what I did enjoy about this volume. And like a lot of us, I read Like a Butterfly volume 1 by Sumo Rashida, and it was so incredibly sweet. It gave me all of the butterflies, like pun intended, very, very wholesome and sweet. It is more slow burn romance compared to like A Sign of Affection or Shortcake Cake, but it is no less amazing and very interested and exciting to see where this series goes. I feel like both of our leads are just awkward little beans and don't really know what to say, very shy, and I'm just really here and I'm really digging that kind of romance. It feels unique to me compared to other manga that I've read where they're just genuinely awkward and don't know what to say. Like they just feel like awkward little teenagers, and I'm like, I'm here for your little romance. It's so sweet. Really enjoyed the art style, really enjoy her best friend as well. There was a volleyball match, and I'm like, hey, anytime volleyball is in manga, like that's always an instant win for me. Very much looking forward to volume 2, and will be picking up more of this series to see how it unfolds. This is one of my honorable picks for my favorite read of this month. I actually was really struggling what my favorite read was this month. I read volume 1 of A Reincarnated Witch Spells Doom. I really, really enjoyed this. I was definitely influenced to pick it up by a friend on Twitter. I wasn't even intending to pick it up, but I heard it was like a shoujo isekai, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, I don't know a lot of shoujo isekai that aren't like villainous shoujo isekai, so I decided to pick it up, and it was so well worth it. The beginning wasn't slow. I feel like it had a slower pace. Not boring though. I feel like I make that known, because sometimes I feel like when we say there's a slower pace that we can associate that with being boring, and I definitely was never bored throughout this series. I love the art. I really love the opening message that words have power, and the things that you say, in her case, it's interesting because the things that she said in her past life when she was reincarnated, it definitely influenced how her magical abilities work in her present life. Hopefully that makes sense. So I really love just seeing that message that words have power and how it was shown in this volume. There's not really a romance. There is, but there isn't. I will say that the ending was a massive cliffhanger and a huge turn of events. This wins for turn of events, that things that I just did not see coming, because it's very casual. It's more like slice of life feeling with a touch of magic thrown in there. And then you get near the end and you're like, hold the phone. This became like an action manga. You don't know what's going to happen to certain characters, and you're pretty worried for those certain characters. Definitely like read to the end if you're like, well, this is sort of slow going, it's not my thing. I really think volume 2 is going to be a different starting volume compared to the first one. fun and that we are just getting right into the action at this point. Like, I'm really excited to see where the series goes. I really like both of our leads a lot. I really love how they just had, it wasn't an instant romance. I mean, I think In Press says this is a romantic story when you look at their tags, but they have this great forming friendship in the beginning that I think was just really nice and refreshing. That again, there wasn't this instant attraction. Like, characters have an attraction to one another, but they don't really realize it until things happen. And so I like that. I like that a lot. Like I said, I thought it was different than what I've been reading. Not that there's anything wrong when there is an instant attraction, but it was just nice seeing it in this volume. I felt like everything flowed really well. I liked the magic system and how everything is working, and just very curious to see where this series is going to go, because I never expected to enjoy it as much as I did. It's one, again, I'm really anticipating. Oh my goodness, my friend Brie inspired me to pick this up because she had commented on my cat video that I did for Top 5 Wednesday, I think the previous month, and that is cat massage therapy. This is so cute. Oh my goodness. It's colored kitties and the cats are so cute. This has been part of the bundle sale for Right Stuff, and I believe since this was the, or is the last week of their bundles, I have really struggled getting this series because the cats are the most precious thing. I'm going to show you the kittens, the trainees, because look at this. Look at this. This is so adorable. I'm like, even if you're not a cat person, the cuteness is overwhelming. I mean, if the goal is to make the reader relax when reading this, mission accomplished, because I was so happy after I read this. I felt very relaxed. I think the only downfall is that I'm like, I want to go visit this massage place and get a cat massage myself. And I'm like, obviously I can't, but that would be amazing to do. It was so cute. My daughter absolutely loved it, which I think we all knew is not unsurprising given how I've talked about how she likes cats before, but it is just, oh, it's so cute. It is just so cute. I'm like, apparently I need more cat manga that's like this. I mean, I love Q-chan and I love like my Execusa and Stray Kitten, but this just hits differently. And I'm like, I could just read this series so much more than I already have. It, oh, look at them, and just be so incredibly happy, which is why I'm really debating to get them on the bundle sale, because I feel like if I need a pick-me-up, this series is it. And I don't know, but my library has volume 1, and I think they have volume 2, and I'm assuming they're gonna get volume 3, so I'm sort of like my library already has it. Will I reread it? And I feel like yes, I would, because again, it's just so relaxing and so cute, and love just seeing what these little trainees and our cat massage therapists, what they will do to help these humans relax. Highly recommend if you need a relaxing and very cute story to read and relax. It is so beautiful and a very enjoyable story. And of course, I had to read my favorite shonen that is ongoing right now, and that is Kaiju number 8, volume 7. I agree with Kafka, like, things need to hold up. They need to slow down. There was some upsetting things that happened in this volume, and I'm like, I don't know where the series is going to go. I appreciate very much seeing some older faces though. Very much appreciated that. I feel like the stakes continue to get higher and higher, and I'm very nervous for what like the future holds for these characters, because now things, I mean, there was a high stake in previous volumes with fighting kaiju that I feel like because of what happens in this volume specifically, there is much more personal stakes than ever before. These characters are out to fight. There is a personal grudge there, and I think rightfully so. I'm like, yes, go kick these kaiju butt and save the day. Let's just get rid of the kaiju number 9, I believe is that guy's name. He's the really ugly looking kaiju that I just don't like. Also, I will say if there was any disappointment with this volume, the page quality was so incredibly bad. Some pages that were so smudged that really affected how I was able to read. Like, here we go. What is this? What is this? Like, look at all of this. And this was on numerous pages. And even like a butterfly had pages that were so faded, were so light that I hardly could even read it. I'm too cheap right now to go get a new copy. But man, I'm like, come on, like, please fix this. Also, I will show this one page. So I can't remember his name. I'm blanking on names this morning because I went to bed late. But this guy here, he has been in the doghouse with me since the previous previous volume. Not quite so much anymore. I love this conversation he had with Kafka. I also hate it at the same time, and I think it's just because I hate the way that he treats Kafka. It irks me so much, but this was such a great moment, and I knew this page was colored, and I went online, and sure enough, it is very, very gorgeous. Maybe it sounds weird to say gorgeous, but I really appreciate how like we get these colored pages in the beginning, and there's the Eiffel Tower. This is also online if you want to actually appreciate the Eiffel Tower and how epic it looks in this picture, but I've really enjoyed that we've been getting those. It's been very, very nice. I definitely continue to super enjoy Kaiji number 8. Oh, and there were things that happened at the end of this volume. Almost forgot that I'm like, oh man, like things are just escalating. It just continues to get better and better. This manga recently wrapped up this month, and that is My Coworker Has a Secret. I did do a video review. I love this 2-volume series. It was so fun. Just as enjoyable as the first time I read it because I read it digitally the first time, and I knew for a fact that I was going to want to read this or like have this on my shelf to reread again. Yes, I stand by that statement. If you're curious about my thoughts on this, definitely go check out my video. This was a strong, overwhelming 5 stars. Love both volumes and will be rereading again in the future. I gushed about this in one of my top 5 Wednesday videos recently, and that is A Condition Called Love Volume 4. So very good. This series, it's just getting better and better and better. If you were skeptical after reading Volume 1, if Hanoni was a red flag character, he is not. You get lots of great backstory and really get to see into his mind and why he has acted the way he does, why he makes the decisions that he does, and I'm just like, it's so heartbreaking, but everything makes sense. I knew this young man was not a red flag character, but this volume confirmed that he is not. I love seeing our couple be an actual couple, seeing how their romance unfolds. It has been so deeply satisfying. I feel like each volume continues to top itself and makes it that much better. Very much eager for volume 5 to see the direction and where this series is going to go. I'm so invested in their love story. I love both of them. They're so very different, but they're very compatible, and the way that they are overcoming obstacles and different things that they have thought maybe about themselves is very, very good. I cannot recommend this shoujo enough. I'm very thankful that Colleen put this on my radar because I would have seriously been missing out if I had not picked this up. Another really good read that I super enjoyed was Execuza and Stray Kitten Volume 3. I feel like I'm sort of just here for Jen at this point. I love Sabu, but Jen, oh my goodness, he is amazing. I love just his interactions with Sabu, with these animals. He is so funny. I always get excited when he is on page. Granted, I really enjoy Sabu. I love seeing Sabu actually trust Jen and how he's really growing as a kitten. He's so adorable and he totally knows it. He tries to use it to his advantage, which definitely brings plenty of shenanigans in this volume. It never fails to make me smile or laugh. I'm very bummed that volume 4 will be the final volume because it has been such a joy to read this. I love it so much. I feel like the expressions are just so entertaining. I mean, maybe there's not a lot to this story, but I'm like, I'm okay with that. I'm just here to have fun. And that's exactly what this volume does successfully every single time. Again, I'm going to be really bummed when I finally read volume 4 and have it in my hands because I'm not ready to say goodbye. Like, this has been a nice read that comes out every few months. I have my boost of serotonin and happiness, and it's coming to an end. I'm like, I'll have to find a new cat manga to replace it with, but I'm like, I don't want to because I really, really enjoy this. So definitely recommend if you are looking for cat manga with some Yakuza, ex-Yakuza. It has so many great shenanigans and very, very fun. So after a lot of thinking about it and looking at what I read this month, I'm going to say that this volume was actually my favorite read this month, and that is My Girlfriend's Child Volume 2. This is just an amazing series. I did gush about this in my top 5 Wednesday video this week. It's phenomenal. I don't know how to capture how powerful this story is, especially with the art. Very emotionally moving, and I feel like our characters are very brave and their struggles just jump off the page and really just make you want to hug our main girl, to be honest. They have so much weight that's on them in the decisions that they have to make. What is the right decision? How do they know if it's right? There's some parents in the volume who are very vocal what they need to be doing, and there's other parents who are not vocal at all, and it's causing some distress in some of our main characters. It has just been a very emotional, investing story that I am eager to read more of. It's not a fluffy story, but I just feel like this captures a topic that needs to be addressed more concerning teen pregnancy, and her partner, he is one of the best partners I have ever read in manga. He is so supportive, and the way that he went above and beyond to do research was incredible. I'm like, dude, I didn't even do that much research when I was pregnant for the first time, so I was just completely blown away. Very much love this series. Maybe I'm not doing it justice of how well to describe it, but it is one that I honestly cannot get enough of. Despite the heavier topic, I'm very invested in seeing where this story is going to go and really just cheering and supporting our main leads. They need all of the support that they can get. I am unsure of what to say about this one, and I feel really sad about that. I tried, and I did. I read Cinderella Closet Volume 2. I felt really sick the day that I read both of these, and I think what happened is I was okay when I read My Girlfriend's Child, but I feel like my energy was completely just gone with Volume 2. I didn't dislike it, but I also didn't give it a rating on Goodreads, and just decided that I need to come back to this at some point when I'm feeling better. I mean, I feel better now, but I didn't come back the next day and reread it. But I feel like I just was not, because I wasn't feeling well, I wasn't able to appreciate this volume the same way I did Volume 1. Because Volume 1 was one of my favorite reads sometime earlier this year. I really, really loved it. This volume, I feel like, does have a little bit of a change of direction where it's starting to be a little bit more focused on the romance, which definitely isn't a bad thing because I'm totally cheering for, I forget his name, Hikaru is his name. I'm totally cheering for him and want him and Haruka to definitely be a couple by the end of this series. But I just feel like because I wasn't feeling well, that I just wasn't able to appreciate the way that I was hoping. My verdict is this isn't a bad volume or anything. I'm just going to come back to it when I'm fully aware and not sick so I can actually really soak in this volume and appreciate it. I decided to read it that day that I was sick because I was so excited that it finally arrived, and I wish I wouldn't have rushed myself to pick it up and just listen to my body and went to sleep first, and then the next day I would have read it. So I'm going to come back to this and hopefully can give an actual review of what I thought. I did read a villainous manga, and it's a really long title, and that is Villainous Level 99. I may be the hidden boss, but I'm not the demon lord. This was actually the winning manga for the longest title in my collection when I did the video with my kiddos of them quizzing me on my collection, or manga collection I mean. This was a really interesting read. This is actually the first time where I did my video review and then I wrote my written review. Usually I always write a written review first and then I film a video so all my thoughts are a little bit more cohesive and I feel like a little bit more linear when it comes to talking about it and not just jumping everywhere. I saw that happen, but I feel like it's a little bit better when I do the written review first. But yes, I do have a video review coming of this in about 2 weeks. Yeah, in two more weeks. I enjoyed this. At first I thought maybe I didn't. It is a funny manga, but at the same time it's not. Like, our main girl is not your typical humorous villainess, and so it was different in that regard, but not in a bad way, and she's very much OP'd. And I think this was one of the first times where I've read a shoujo villainous manga where the main lead really is OP and she realizes that she is and knows that she is. So there was some good humor with that at times. I'm very curious to see where it goes. I think like the only thing I didn't super love is I don't like who the original heroine is and her gang of guys. I didn't like them. I didn't like them, but I gave this a 4 stars. I am like very curious of where it's going. I think for me personally, this is going to be, I picked up this series because there's going to be an anime coming out at some point. I feel like this is going to be an anime that I enjoy more than the manga because I really want to see how certain humorous moments are animated and seeing certain people on page, or on screen I mean. I don't think we have an official date, but I will eagerly be watching it when it does come out. This was my only do not finish manga this month, and that is Coffee Moon Volume 3. I was so bummed I did not love this more. I really love the beginning and how our main girl finally has freedom from things that have been happening in the previous 2 volumes. But who were these characters that were introduced, and why did they look like the main girls from Volume 1 and Volume 2? Like, I was really lost. I didn't know what was happening. I don't know who was who. I didn't understand this battle that takes place. I just felt very, very confused and lost. So I felt very satisfied after I read the opening chapter in the sense of closure. I was satisfied with the closure and I was like, I'm just going to stop here. Though I will say, I really love seeing her be able to have a genuine relationship with her mom. That was one part that I just skipped ahead and happened to see and really, really like that. Like, that was very rewarding as well. The art is still good as always. It definitely plays with your eyes though. Like literally, I sort of wonder if that did turn me off a little bit because it was too much at times looking at the page and felt dizzy. I really loved volume 1. I loved the message in volume 1, but volume 3, despite that she has this newfound freedom and she's wanting to help her friends have the same freedom that she has, I'm not willing to check out volume 4 to see where the story goes and if it will get less confusing. I'm gonna unfortunately stop here, and I am very bummed about that. Talking about a few manhwa, I read What's Wrong with Secretary Kim volume 2, and I loved this volume. It's so very good. We're starting to see more of the romance, and I'm here for it. I read this series digitally, and it has been so satisfying reading it physically and being able to hold this volume physically. We're starting to see more of the mystery elements that are in this story, and it's one of my favorite parts of the series, and I'm very curious to see where it goes because there were a few parts, I mean, I know how it ends, but like there were a few parts that I'm like, oh yeah, like I forgot that happened. Like with the brother, like our main lead's brother or male lead's brother, I really disliked him the first time I read the series. I'm trying to be more open-minded this time around to see if maybe I can see things differently, but like I forgot how he first is introduced in the story, and I'm just like, I'm really struggling not to deeply dislike him. I'm really struggling. Lots of continued humor, great art, very much just love it so much and can't recommend it enough. I'm so cheering for these two their romance, and Miss Kim is just amazing. I love her as a character. She's fantastic. Highly recommend this one. Just so good. The other manhwa I read this month, which was also really good, is volume 4 of Why Ray Leanna Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion. Oh my goodness. The ending. Why? Just why did it end that way? Like, no. No, and no. This volume was very good. It's interesting because the most thing that stands out to me is I really didn't like the grandpa in the previous volume. He's the high priest. Let me see if I can get a picture of him. Here it is right here. I did not really like him the previous volume. I just didn't like how stuck up he was. That not just a personal preference for me. This volume, he really came into his grandpa role being there for Ray Leanna. They had a really heartfelt, moving moment, and Noah and Ray Leanna definitely had a fantastic moment. And why does nobody ever talk about Noah's brother? He is a interesting and amazing character. I didn't like how he basically splits up our main couple here, but I really love seeing him on page because he's definitely Noah's brother. Like there's no denying at all. They have very similar personalities, and just poor Ray Leanna. So I really enjoyed this volume, continuing to love this series. It's so good. Though that ending, oh my goodness, that ending should have not been the ending. But that is all I'll say. Very good, though brace yourself for the end. This has been one of my most anticipated manga. I have been so excited for this. I don't really know why, but I just have, and that is I Want to Be a Receptionist in This Magical World. I love this cover, and I think I was excited for this because originally I thought this was an isekai, but it's not. It's a fantasy manga, and I was like, okay, the title sounds like an isekai for some reason, but it's just a fantasy world, and I loved it. It's been a really long time, I feel like I've read and appreciated a good enemies to lovers, and where the enemies don't actually like hate each other's guts. I feel like that's more of a popular trope now, where like when you have the enemies to lover, it's like a deep loathing hate, but yet they somehow love each other. These two just have this very competitive nature against each other, so there's no hate there, and I am all here for it. The romance doesn't really bloom in this first volume, but I'm like, there are some sparks between y'all, like no pun intended, because they have very different powers that really cause some sparks, literally. I loved it though. I love this story. There's a lot of time skips, but they flowed so well. You see the progression of our main girl, of her powers, of her growing as an individual. The ending was very good. It's not a cliffhanger kind of ending where you're like desperate for the next one, like Ray Leanna, but it is a good cliffhanger in that you're like, I want to see what's going to happen next. I feel like it had this hopeful and optimistic ending. Really appreciate that as well. I love how competitive she is. I deeply related. In middle school, there was a guy, his name was Brian. For whatever reason, I hated losing to him. I could lose to anybody else, but I could not lose to Brian, and I always would lose to Brian. Our main girl has a very similar problem, so I really related to her in that aspect. So I felt like this was just a fun read overall, where there is that relatability and there's just fun magic, and then having this enemies to lovers where they're not genuine enemies was so great. I can't wait wait for volume 2. I feel like this is going to be a hidden gem that if you love fantasy that's not that, and you don't want isekai, and you want the enemies to lovers where they don't hate each other, and you want this fun magic that's included with great friendships, by the way, this is one you need to check out, especially if you want a shoujo one. Very much looking forward to the next volume. I don't know when it comes out though. I don't know when it comes out, but I'm like, I hope it's here soon. And my last reads for this month, I have been buddy reading this series with a friend, and that is Run on Your New Legs, volumes 1 through 4. I didn't finish volume 5. I really tried that last day of July, but my kiddo wanted to watch a live stream that was pretty late, and I was like, you know what, school's about to start. We're not going to be able to watch these much anymore. Let's go ahead and watch it. So that's why I didn't read volume 5. So I read volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, and volume 4. I have really enjoyed this series. I didn't super love volume 3. I still liked it. I gave it 4 stars, but all the other volumes were 5. I think it's just because there was something that I wanted to happen that didn't exactly happen the way I expected, but it has been such a touching and inspiring story to read and see unfold. This is actually the first fictional story I've ever read where COVID actually plays a role in the characters' lives. I appreciate that more in volume 4 than I did volume 3 because that was something I wasn't expecting. I hope that was not just a spoiler just now, but I guess a heads up to that. But I think it was really well done. Chidori is an amazing guy. He's sketchy as always, but I've really enjoyed seeing him. It has just been great. Lots of good humor, lots of great characters. This is my favorite volume cover. I never expected to get so attached to these characters as I have. I'm planning to read volume 5 sometime. Hopefully, I'm filming this video early, so hopefully I've already read volume 5 and enjoyed it, but I'm not really ready to say goodbye to these characters, but I hope it's a strong ending because this has been a really strong series. I don't think I'm going to do a video review of it right now, but I do have a first impression on volume 1. I think at some point I'll come back and do a full series review because it is a sports manga that I think just should not be passed over. It's been very good, very satisfying. And that, my friends, wraps up everything that I read this month. I feel like I didn't go quite as in depth as I usually do. I went to bed late because of that live stream, so I feel like the words were not flowing quite as well as they usually are, but I still hope you enjoyed this video. I love the opportunity to gush about these manga and share about them. Totally let me know, what did you read this month? What were some of your favorites? I would love to hear from you, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!